Keith Lincoln.
Here.
Trustee David Smith.
Here.
Trustee Hugh Connett.
Here.
Trustee Bob Lux is here. Trustee Paul Martin.
Here.
Here. We have a full board here today, so that means we have a quorum. We're going to start with our opening invocation and pledges of allegiance. Heavenly Father, we come to you as an assembled body. We humbly request that you bless our meeting, our community, and our nation. Help us to work diligently, always for the common good and in the best interest of those who we have been elected to represent. Guide us to be insightful and prudent in our intentions, visions, plans, deliberations, decisions, and their fulfillment. Work through us to provide a spirit of welcome to all in attendance, to engage in respectful and thoughtful dialogue and discussion with understanding, wisdom, and humility. Amen.
Amen.
If you wish, prior to reciting the pledges of allegiance, please take an additional moment of silent prayer or additional reflection in the manner of your preference. Thank you. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pledge to the Texas flag. Pledge allegiance to the one faith, under God, one and indivisible. Brings us to any comments from the public this evening, Shelley? No. Receive an update on Region H. Mr. Bradehoff, good afternoon, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. President, trustee members, senior staff of Woodlands Water, and members of the public. We're here to report out on the Region H third quarter meeting that was conducted on August the 6th. In that meeting, we were provided a recap of the public comments, both organizations that made public comments and individuals. The public comment period was closed on July 18th, and that allowed the public to make comments on the proposed 26 to 31 Region H plan that will be voted on in October. And then when we vote to approve that plan, then it will be released to be filed with the Texas Water Development Board by the 20th of October. That's the deadline. So we had comments, we received comments from the Texas Water Development Board. We received comments back from the Texas Parks and Wildlife, various residents. Well, we had about 8 written comments from residents. One mud organization wrote in some comments, and we received comments from the Bayou City Water Keepers Association. The type of comments, some of the topics related to environmental, water loss strategies, groundwater impacts, and that was the withdrawal, continued withdrawal of water from the ground. People are concerned about that. And we received comments about drought management. That's some of the topics that people wrote into. Our consultant will officially write back to the residents that wrote official comments and be signed by the chairman of the board. There is a socioeconomic report that we received from the Texas Water Development Board, and it's quite interesting. In the report, all the economic dollars were based upon 23 values. For example, Region H, the gross domestic product of Region H is valued at $555 billion. The region supports 3.86 million jobs, and it has a population in excess of 7.4 million people and continues to grow. This is going to be in a Region H packet, and I would encourage everybody to be on a Google Drive. You may want to read this report. It's quite interesting. It's about 22 pages, but it covers various topics of the impact of water to our region. And there's a comment in there that if we don't find the water we need by 2030, it will have an economic negative impact to the area. And that means people will leave. You will have job loss. They estimate that if we don't find the water that we need by 2030, we could have at least 60,000 jobs reduced. And then there's further other impacts economically to the region. We don't anticipate that we won't find the water, but you have to know that if you don't find water, there is an economic impact. So I'd encourage everyone to read this study. It's quite insightful.
I thought there was like 1,000 pages, 1,100 pages. Is that another report?
That's the total.
Total.
That's the total plan. This specific economic impact study, which is about 22 pages, is in our third quarter meeting packet. And that'll be on the Google Drive for everyone to access. Shelley will post that tomorrow.
No, if there was
That's annoying.
a citizens meeting, you know, something that goes through and discusses the Montgomery County aquifers, I would like to attend. So if you ever hear,
We'll report that back and make sure that everyone
I'd
has
like to
that.
attend some training session from about that.
Right.
You can find a more depth understanding of that.
Related to the regional water plan? Or
No, if you look at the 1,000-page document, it talks about groundwater consumption and all that. And, you know, using a lot of language that, you know, I'm not used to. I wouldn't mind attending, you know, a meeting which discusses, you know, the aquifers groundwater usage, if it's available. I mean, I'll drive downtown Houston, you know, but if something pops up, I would, you know, I would attend without hesitation.
Well, in the meeting packet that we get every quarter, there's a list of all different abbreviations as it relates to water planning. So if you go on a Google Drive and you get this, at least there's some definitions in there as it relates
I
to.
got the 1,100-page document on my hard drive
All
already.
right, so you're good.
And I started browsing it, and, you know, like after a while you choke on it.
Well, you do, there's a tremendous amount of chapters. It's extremely detailed. There's a lot of water strategies in there. There's talk about where water will come from, both the ground, surface water, what reservoirs are involved. So it is very detailed. And that's why we got a detailed letter back from the Texas Water Development Board asking questions, making recommendations. So all those comments will go into the plan to be refined from now to the final plan presented to us on October the 1st. And on October the 1st, the board has to approve that plan, release it. Our consultant will pack it up and get it down to the Texas Water Development Board. So we meet the deadline on or before the 20th of October. Then they'll take it, see if there's any, I'll call it clerical refinements, make sure the dots are there, the Ts are crossed. And then it gets uploaded into the Texas full plan by each of the regions will be in there. And the other thing that was quite interesting in our meeting is that there was a recap on the 89th legislative review. I don't want to take anything from Brian's report, but there's something that's very important for us as voters. In November, when we go to the polls, it's important that we vote for the change to the state constitution as it relates to water. There's a couple bills in there, and if we vote positively, there's going to be a tremendous water, I'll call it a water super fund that will be every year, they'll contribute $1 billion towards it. And it's going to be very important for us in this state. And it's a tremendous commitment by our legislature for water in the future. And that detail of the different legislation is in our packet. I don't want to take too much time in the meeting. You guys got a lot to cover tonight, but it was a good meeting of everything from administration to things that are on the horizon. And I'll finish with this. Starting in January, we'll be working on the next 5-year plan. So it's going to start all over. For me, it's been an honor to be there and represent this group and water utilities. I've learned a lot. I've been there since August 22, that if I could say anything that's important for us, we got to continue to plan. Things we're talking about in the community, about pipelines, about waste treatment, about a dam project. We got to make sure we got good plans for the future and make sure we know how we're going to finance this. That's what a lot of things came out from my experience in water planning. So thanks for the time and the
Thank you very
opportunity.
much, Arthur.
Appreciate
Appreciate
it.
your input. Okay, that brings us to the update of Region 6 San Jacinto Regional Flood Planning Group. I believe Mr. Gaynor is, Trustee Gaynor is going to speak on behalf of Melda Diaz.
Yes, he's not here this evening. The last meeting of the SJRFPG was in May. However, there is a meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m. at the East Aldine Town Center. You can go to the website to find information on that. And also, if you wish to view the meeting remotely, there's a link on the meetings page for the SJRFPG. A lot to say.
Very good. Okay, that brings us to the consent agenda. Agenda items 6 and 7, pages 1 through 14 in our meeting packet.
Move to accept as presented.
We have a motion to accept. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Do we need discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. Thank you. Out of respect for our representative from Cornerstone, Mr. Tony Asali, we're going to move the agenda item 11 up to agenda item 8. Tony, good evening. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
You've been
and-
through a tough period of time here.
Yes.
It's really nice to see you.
Absolutely.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for the opportunity. Appreciate your time and interest, and thank you for pronouncing my last name right. Nobody ever does. So usually August is a sleepy month in politics and government, and this has been anything but sleepy, and will continue to be anything but sleepy. But some good news to report on a couple of fronts. I don't know how much background you want me to give on our work and me and the firm. I was just going to go right into updates and
I think that's fine. I mean,
Okay.
does anybody, I mean, he was here a couple months ago, 3 months ago, and gave the overview of the firm. If you need any brushing up on that, Tony can do that. Aside from that, I think everybody's good. If
Thank you.
not, say so now. Go for it, Tony. Bring us up to date.
Appreciate it. So a couple things have happened since my last visit. First, Congressman Crenshaw was successful in securing $5 million for Fair Branch Dam modification project in the House Energy and Water Appropriations Bill. The good news is that it's in the bill. The bad news is that there's no guarantee that bill is going to become law. We're in this nebulous period when it comes to the budget. I would say it's 50-50, but even if it doesn't become law by September 30th this year, it will become law, we believe, at some point early next year. And that money is going to be there. That money is guaranteed. It's not going anywhere. They're not going to rescind it. It's not going to be doged or anything like that. So that money is dedicated and will be coming here. It's just a question of when. And then more good news specifically related to Congressman Crenshaw. I've been working with his staff on, last time we talked about modifying the underlying statute that governs water funding at the federal level, and trying to make sure that preference is given to fast growing areas like this at the expense of areas that are experiencing population decline. So after some back and forth between Crenshaw and the committee staffers that work on this issue, they were uncomfortable with the idea of altering the statute. So this actually worked out to our benefit. They said, why don't you just bring us your 2 highest priority projects, and let's work on getting funding for those projects rather than changing the way the statute is written to try to benefit you. So it's more direct and less roundabout. And we didn't think they'd be receptive to that, but they offered it. So they opened the door to us coming back with the 2 highest priority projects and finding ways to get those funded. So like I said, really worked out to our benefit here unexpectedly.
So we identify those projects, or are you working on them, or we yet to be defined?
We have discussions on it right now. That's the, thresholds, what would be eligible and what's the right things to go after. More to come.
Anything else? Tony, anything else?
Oh, no, sorry.
That's it?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
I'll
Any
pause.
questions for Tony? Very good. Thank you so much, sir. Have a good evening. Okay, that brings us to the former agenda item number 8. Mr. Meeks, is he here?
That's,
What? What's that?
we need the operating capital.
TT30.
Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. I mismarked things. Relax, Chris. You're up next. I got all fouled up here in my diligent planning. General Manager Eric Peterson, could you please pick this up?
Pick it up.
Thank you, sir, because it fell.
It fell off the tee.
Yes, sir, it did.
All right, so tonight we have the draft WWA budget to go over. There's no action tonight. We will need to go through or approve it next month. So we did something a little bit different this year. And does everybody have a copy packet? It got sent out on Friday.
This one? Anybody else need?
One of the things that we did a little bit different this year is this document here, which is really the summary. We did something similar to this summary in the past, but I wanted to simplify it to be a little bit more user-friendly to those of us walking through the line items in the budget. So if you'll notice, the front page is just some general information about the accounts and how we look at the budget on an accrual basis. And then at the bottom is really the major takeaways. And then the next 2 pages would go right in order, right down the GL codes that you see on the budget itself. That way, if you're following along the budget from top to bottom, page to page, you could follow along with starting on page 2 of the packet and go right along and follow along. The items that were highlighted within that summary are items, as it's noted there on the sheet, are items that were plus or minus 10%. So there are other modifications to the budget, but I really focused on giving you reasons and descriptions of the items that are plus or minus 10%. From an overall, I did go through this line item by line item with the Audit and Finance Committee last week. They can speak up more here in a minute. But I did want to maybe, instead of going line item by line item, talk about the overall takeaways and maybe even talk about just how to read this budget. If I know a few of you have not gone through this before, it might be worth going through just the how-to of it. So next week, the MUD budgets, all the MUDs will see their individual MUD budgets. And so within the MUD budget, you're going to see, the day-to-day work that we do for the MUDs to fix breaks, to do certain projects on the water, sewer, drainage, storm, large ditch, all those different categories that are these tan categories. You're going to see those on your MUD budgets next week. If you turn to page 2 of the expense side of this budget, those are in the tan area, those are the expenses or the projects related to those line items: water service repair, water maintenance, et cetera, sewer, storm sewer, large ditch. You're going to see all those items on the MUD budgets next week. Those items that we do for you are translated into revenue as a pass-through on the front page. the tan items are passed through from expense plus 10%, and are put in the revenue column on the front page. That's how those translate. The big takeaways for the WWA budget really start with the MUD budgets. And that is related to a significant recommendation that we're making that you'll see in your individual budgets to really focus on the storm sewers and large ditches within the Woodlands. As you know, I've been talking for the last 8 or 9 months about doing the ditch evaluations, running each ditch, identifying all the assets. We completed that successfully about 2 weeks ago or so, 2 or 3 weeks ago. And that allowed us to start building some numbers around what some of the more immediate projects that need to be addressed as it relates to storm sewer, interceptor piping, and ditch condition, including siltation and overgrowth on the top banks. Those are the kind of the 4 main categories that you'll see next week in a little bit more detail. Then, in order to meet the reserves resolution, we utilize the admin fee there on the revenue side. That kind of balances the budget, if you will, as it relates to having that 1 to 2 months of reserve. That's kind of how we utilize that, and that fluctuates year to year. Kind of depends on how active we are within the MUDs. Related to the ditch project, what you'll see on the WWA budget here are 2 significant things that are related to the MUDs doing more ditch work. One is the employee salaries on page 2 at the top there. That increase is relative to hiring a dedicated crew that will be going out and working on the ditches, as well as on page 4 at the bottom, there is a special purchase items line item. And in your summary, we've identified those items in order to get the equipment for that crew to do its work. We're proposing to buy a mini excavator, a skid steer, a chipper, and a truck and trailer to haul all that those crews would work with. So the reason I'm bringing those are the bigger movers on this budget but it really starts with the work we're proposing in the long-term maintenance program for the ditch work, and then the resources on this budget that it would take to accomplish that. Does that make sense?
Do you have a place to store that
We do at the field office.
field office?
Yes. That's where, and now this equipment will not be of the size to be able to do heavy ditch work. We're still going to need, again, this is more of a MUD discussion, but since it relates to these expenses on the WWA budget, I felt like it's good to kind of talk about the whole big picture. If they're not equipment big enough to do large scale ditch project or large scale clearing of some of the overbrush, but we will be able to keep that crew busy for well over a year, likely to address the light clearing that we need to do, the lighter desiltation in a lot of the ditches, and that will keep them mostly busy. We will have to contract out for some of the bigger stuff for sure. That's project specific, and we'll talk about those details at the MUD level.
So Eric, this is the first time we've had an integrated, a comprehensive assessment, condition assessment of all the elements of the drainage system.
Correct.
Okay.
And then
And that resides in a GIS database.
It does.
Okay.
It does. You'll learn next week in the MUD meetings that we got it done just in time for our GIS consultant to give me a spreadsheet that was usable enough to be able to grind through putting some numbers together. But in terms of having a pretty report with pictures, we have it all, but we just got to clean up the database to be able to present it in a little bit more presentable format for the MUDs, and we'll get there. I just needed to get at least the numbers done for the budgets. And then we'll follow up with all the reports and pretty pictures and stuff like that.
This crew is what, like 3 people or?
It's gonna be 4, it may end up being 3, but we'll put in the budget 4 people. That would be a crew lead and 3 laborers or 4.
You think ultimately this will save us money than contracting out?
I do. We can do that work cheaper. And one of the things that, to Neil's point, that we hadn't done in the past is ongoing maintenance. So initially, this crew is going to be focused on getting the facilities back up to design capability in coordination with the other bigger contractor that will do the bigger work. So when we're done with all that work that's proposed in the MUD budgets, then we'll kind of refocus that crew to be more on a maintenance program. And so we'll do more frequent reviews of we have about 30 miles of ditches. And so it takes a few days or weeks to even drive through it with our equipment. And then that way we can more proactively look at any of the items that might need to be addressed. I mean, obviously tree overgrowth doesn't happen the next month, to that point. So certain things will take longer. Silt takes time, but blowouts could happen with any given storm. I think one of our proposed plans as far as the ongoing maintenance program would be a certain frequency of running through the ditches just for observation, as well as immediately after any significant storm events. Those would be the initial frequencies of looks. And then obviously, likely, Kent calls me from time to time because even after, I think since the last mowing, 2 trees have fallen down. We didn't had really a big storm, but it just happens, so there's always stuff that are going to be going on. So once we get over the hump of the bigger items, then we plan to continue to maintain it so the smaller items don't become big in the future. The other,
Eric, could I make a suggestion? When you're hiring these people, if you could find one guy that's, I don't know whether you have to have a license, but it's a heavy equipment operator that
Right.
can operate various machines, is maybe the lead guy, because you can rent some significant equipment and don't have to bring in a contractor. You can rent it for whatever. You don't have to own it.
that's the plan.
Okay, so that we'd have one person that could operate a dozer and a big backhoe.
Another larger item is some of the sanitary sewer that was on the budgets last year. That project is ongoing, but I don't think we're going to chew through all that budget by the end of this fiscal year. And that contractor is still continuing. So some of that will roll forward. Some of the big deductions or decreases in the budget from last year are related to the software changeover and those things coming off because you paid for them last year. So those are some of the bigger decreases in the budget. But those are the highlights. And certainly, like I said, page 2 and 3 of this will walk you through every single line item that has a plus or minus 10%, and gives a little bit of talk on that.
So Eric, every ditch, the 30 miles, are they attributed to a mud or several muds, or is this shared among? How does that allocate this cost?
Yeah, the way that they are prorated is where they're located. So that there is a caveat to that. There's a couple ditches that do have some cost sharing to it between a couple different muds, particularly on what we call 9X3 that goes through 6, 36, 46, does have some cost sharing down on the southern portion of the Woodlands. But generally speaking, most of them are where they sit. That mud is responsible for the most part.
Okay, thanks.
And these aren't major. These aren't Bear and Panther or Branch. These are
The neighborhood ones, right? Yeah.
fingers that would eventually get to those branches.
So one of the things we talked about in the Audit and Finance Committee is this budget assumes that the MUDs will progress with the proposal. If for some reason a MUD decides to stage their work or, stretch it over 2 years or 1 year or something, there would be some minor modifications to this. But our recommendation is, we need to be timely to get the ditches back up to their design performance. We've been, less than adequate in getting them cared for on a regular basis.
Over
So-
time, you can see how big storms start getting higher and higher in some of those, right? So I think people all see that and they'll be happy to see this work going on.
Yes, if it gets approved at this in the mud levels, then we will likely kind of build a public outreach to share what
Yeah.
the mud directors and trustees have approved. Because I think it is a win for the community. And I'll say, not to tip the good news, but for the majority of the muds you'll see next week, even putting this extensive work into your mud budgets, just pretty much most of the budgets still work very well, even with the addition of some of these expenses. You'll see that next week.
Does this finish off the big meters this year?
Yes, we'll have the 3s and 4s were purchased. A lot of them have been put in. We'll finish putting those in, and then the 6s and 8s will be purchased, and we'll focus on putting those in as well. So,
But that's fun. The 6 and 8s are funded next year.
yes.
Further questions? None. Thank you.
If you do, anything comes up, have any questions, please send them to me between now and next month. And there might be slight revisions to this because we will put July actuals or August actuals in. So some of the actual numbers will update.
Very good.
Thank you.
Okay, agenda item number 9, receive the regular monthly SJRA Woodlands Division Report. Chris Meeks, please. Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. I know you have a lot on your agenda. Don't have much to add to the packet. There are a few dates on the construction schedule that we identified. Actually, John Geiger identified them as being incorrect, so we're going to correct those prior to the muds next week. But nothing detrimental, just instead of 25, it should be 26. But I don't have anything to add, but happy to take any questions if you have them.
We have a SRI board meeting Friday.
You do?
Good.
Or we do. You're welcome to attend. Yeah, I think it's at 10 a.m.
Yes.
10 a.m. Agenda's posted and more to come.
Could you comment on the new project that you added?
Uh,
What is the disinfection
Disinfection byproduct study. So part of the need, or if you want to increase surface water, is going to also increase disinfection byproducts, mainly TTHMs. This study is to see what capital would be needed and engineering to be needed so you could increase surface water. So we're going to look at like recirculation pumps, diffusers, ways to remove the TTHMs so you could possibly increase surface water flow. So we want to do the study before y'all did the request to go up.
When you
And I
say
had that-
increase surface water, do you mean this is probably focused on is bringing, not increasing our 50%, but bringing other participants.
No, this is
No.
100% taking
Commingled.
Woodlands from 50 to 55 or 60 to
Into
65,
Woodlands.
so just Woodlands only.
So I had received a lot of inquiry from directors about, well, yes, we're at 50-50 target, but what if we were at 60 or 70 or whatever number, and higher than 50? And what I had heard was years ago that there was a study done that kind of showed that there was some issues with being at 65 or higher. And so I just asked, well, what are those issues? What are the costs? Talked with Chris and SJRA and said, can we maybe look at this a little closer? And that's the result of this. So that we'll know. I mean, if someone says, what happens if we need to, because likely when we get to a certain threshold, which is what was determined before, that hasn't probably changed, is that there's additional infrastructure that would be needed in order to knock those disinfection byproducts down. And so I want to know what that is. What's it cost? What, at what threshold? Are there multiple stages if we go from 60 to 70 to 80? I'm not saying we are, I'm just saying, what can we get there and what's it going to cost?
For those byproducts, is there a seasonality to that? Typically, like summer.
Typically, so you need organics, you need chlorine, and you need heat, and then you need water age. And so typically in the summer is when they actually start to peak. The issue is, in some cases, it's a rolling 12-month average, and they pull it every 4 months. So the last time there was a violation related to TTHMs in the Woodlands was actually around February. because the peak in the summer couldn't be buffered out over the non-hot time.
So there's a regulatory element, the amount, that's one, but is it also odor and taste?
It's not.
It's not, it's
Yeah.
primarily regulatory.
Correct. Now, you may have some taste and odor effects because the TTHMs, there's 4 components to it. The 2 that we're focusing are flame based. And so basically you put air into it and they aerate off. So you may get some taste and odor solvency with that.
When you guys come back and discuss this, we have the discussions that are occurring at the GRP meetings, in which may require us to pump less lake water, not which by others will need it. You'll kind of be prepared to discuss if, and we may pump more water, from the GRP system in the winter than we would in the summer in order to allow others to balance the plant. Okay.
Yeah, because I'll be putting that presentation together for GRP in the near future, potentially very near future.
Yeah, I don't know how the other entities, the capacity they have remaining, to increase more lake water, how much groundwater capacity they have. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think we have to have a big picture to balance all that out, so to maximize the utilization of water plant.
Entirely agree. Not a problem. You have to have that conversation. There's some other little nuances we'll go through as well. Yes, sir.
So moving to page 26. I had a question.
I was gonna follow up on that.
Oh, go ahead, yeah.
Okay. Have you contacted these regional water authorities in North Harris County? I assume there's a bunch of operators that are commingling like we are.
Right.
Rather than recreate the problem with this study, have you talked to any of those operators about what they're doing?
Everybody in the area uses chloramines combination of.
I'm talking about with the 50-50, 75-25, or,
It's all based off of regulatory requirements. And so whatever, not HGAC, but subsidence district says down there, that's what they're using. And so,
no, but what I'm talking about is you're talking about figuring out what kind of equipment you're gonna need and doing this study and hiring
Right.
somebody where you may be able to contact people down there and.
It's not apples to apples because they're not using the same disinfection that this system uses.
so one
Would
option,
they commingle?
Right, they're using chloramines, not chlorine. And that changes the game.
Cost wise?
It's, yeah, they're totally different situation.
your pipes start growing algae, you gotta do burnouts, bad for dialysis centers, bad for aquariums, fish stores. It works, don't get me wrong, but it's not something that's preferred in any regard. Chlorine is always the way to go.
So I was asked a question about the Lone Star Groundwater Conservation District pumping fee that I couldn't answer. Is that embedded in the charge for groundwater as part of the blended rate for us? How does that work?
No, so it goes to every individual utility. So the Lone Star fee is embedded in the River Authority zone and budget that you're gonna vote on next item.
Okay.
So,
that number is part of the whatever it is,
yeah,
60.
it is.
So, okay, thank you. It's 8.5 cents if anyone was wondering per 1,000 gallons. But I couldn't answer that question at the time and I
I think
appreciate
it's
the answer.
7 cents, but
Hmm?
I think it's 7.5 cents.
Oh, I just looked at their website.
Okay, must have increased. No.
Maybe what we need is a tutorial on our monthly bill. Because it's on there explicitly.
Not the Lone Star.
You have a TCQ
That's
fee.
getting in there.
Yeah, that's in
Yeah.
there.
That's a-
Because you're the people pumping the groundwater.
Right, so the
So you're
charge.
paying 1,000 gallons. You
Yeah.
get charged.
Now, like City of Conroe has the Lone Star fee called out, and they also have a TCQ fee called out, and maybe a couple others as well.
We have 4 things, right? Water, sewer, groundwater, SWC, and TCQ. That's it. All right.
Additional questions for Chris?
Thank you, sir. Agenda item number 10, consider an act on the SJRA Woodlands Division fiscal year 2026 operating budget. including wholesale water and sewer rates. Is that going to be Chris or Ed or Haley or? You're back.
Just gonna stand up here.
You look so good. Why wouldn't a guy?
Well, all right. Nothing's changed. Same budget, all good. Rate staying the same. GRP rate going down 5 cents. Any questions? Have to answer. And we met with go ahead. Met with the audit committee and didn't know if y'all had any comments about it.
We recommended it before, continue to recommend it.
Continue the positive feedback on getting the surface water throughput up. That 5 cents, the right direction.
I entirely agree. It's good. Actually go on hard.
Questions for Mr. Meeks? Very good. Thank you, sir. Okay, that brings us to the action there. Yeah. So, need a motion to approve the Woodlands Division fiscal year operating budget. I have a motion to approve from Trustee Martin and looking for a second, and the second from Trustee House. We got it in.
Okay, we got it.
We got it
We
in.
doubled down on it.
We doubled down on it.
Okay.
Do we need further discussion on this matter? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose, abstain, motion passes. Thank you. Okay, that brings us now to agenda item 12. Discuss and act on the town center water line project, including removing the project hold, moving forward with final design and redesign of certain segments, combining the town center water line and town center easement projects into a single project, and authorize acquisition of easements.
I
I'd
move that we
receive a
move
motion.
forward with the town center water line project, including the items that you just mentioned.
Okay, we have a motion to approve as submitted. We have a second. We have a second from Trustee Lashevsky. Discussion on this matter.
A question on this various ownership. How does this formula come about? Is this just standard?
Oh, sorry. Where are you looking?
Well, it's this,
Oh, okay.
these spreadsheets and they show the ownership of the various easements. And there's a predetermined formula that's used to calculate this thing. What's the genesis or is that accepted by everybody?
Here's 75%.
What they did is they looked at the MCAT value, the most recent MCAT value on land, and then did a 75% of that price per square foot.
Is that the standard practice in the industry and is it accepted by everyone? That's my question.
It is a standard practice within the industry. Prices of easements vary because a lot of it depends on whether if you go exclusive, it's going to be a more expensive easement than if you allow other people for that landowner to allow other people to use your same easement. We're wanting to go exclusive, so we don't have gas lines and electric lines in the same trench as we have our water lines. So if you go at 100%, then that'd be like acquiring a fee ownership of the property, and we don't want fee ownership. We just want.
So what's the calculation for the temporary easement and then you multiply it times 5 years?
Temporary easement is at 25%, and we're using 5 years because we need to finish design and then the period of construction. And so at the end of the 5 years, if we haven't finished construction, we'll have to go get a renewal with that property owner.
Where ownership resides in a public body, i.e. Montgomery County or the Woodlands Township, don't they have some skin in the game and can't they be a little more flexible?
Well, remember, we're moving the water line outside the right of way. And then they don't Township and Montgomery County don't own the right of ways. Howard Hughes does. And in most cases, Howard Hughes has granted us the easement at no cost.
Yeah, so most of the,
What I'm trying to, yeah.
But there are places where we have to be outside of Howard Hughes' ownership.
Okay.
And that's why we have a price of 75% of the price on MCAT.
But that's not gonna be a starting point. That's a more.
That's a budget.
that's a budgetary estimate on.
And each one will be appraised. But to give you an idea of what we think cost of easement acquisition is going to be, we went at 75%.
So this list of owners here. So I noticed there wasn't any Hughes Corporation.
No.
Basically, you say they've given you gratis free. You don't
They have in the past. And that's what we're counting on going forward. But there, again, there are some places where we are outside.
outside their property.
Yes.
So if you look at the next page, a lot of this is just pure right of way, the backside. And these are essentially what we're determining is no cost because they're in public right of ways.
So this would be the Hughes Corporation for their properties. I saw the ROW.
Yeah. Other question? Paul, did that get your answer?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
I've got a couple of questions on, I appreciate you putting the work order information in here. I assume this is part of the discussion. Okay. The nice drawing you have, I was comparing that with the scope of work, and it wasn't clear to me what we're actually doing on
End of the map spread.
Lake Woodlands. Yeah. If you look at this map.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And you look at the page 2 of the document, it shows 5 segments. But the segments don't line up with the, unless I'm misreading it, with the all the red. The portion of Lake Woodlands between Grogan's Mill and Six Pines doesn't seem to be included in the write-up.
We don't have a color map. That's why we're asking.
Oh, so this section right here shows that it's part of the project, right? Red is part of the project?
Wasn't that part of the original?
That's part of the original.
That's why that part is already at 90% design. So we're not having to do as much work on that section of drawings.
But when on page 2, it describes the scope of the project. It shows 4 items plus the 5th item that they added on Lakefront Circle. And those,
See, it's Lake Woodlands. Between Lake Woodlands between Six Pines Drive and Pine Crawl.
yeah. And the next section of Lake Woodlands is between Lakefront Circle and Grogan's Mill.
Lake Woodlands Drive and Aviator Way. I don't know where Aviator Way is. Do you?
It's the one behind Whole Foods. It's the starting point on the.
Greg, you're talking about the area by the children's of Woodlands.
So this section on Lake Woodlands between Grogan's Mill and Six Pines
Right.
is not described here. Is it in the project or not in the
It
project?
is in the project, but it's part of the original project and not as much work is having to be done on that. To wrap it up, there is a clause in here and I couldn't tell you where exactly, but there's a provision that takes the original project to completion of design.
I think maybe another way to say it is what's being proposed in the next step is a redesign of the areas of the line that needs to be moved. Whereas the original project, not all of that needs to be redesigned and moved.
Well, all the stuff on Lake Woodlands isn't being moved. Right?
Sorry.
All the stuff on Lake Woodlands isn't being moved. Right?
No, it's not all being moved. It's only on Grogan's Mill itself.
This part is the only part that's being moved,
Right, so you don't have to do redesign on the stuff on Lake Woodlands.
but it's all red. It's called out except
But
for
it's
this
part
one
of-
section.
It's part of that total project.
Can you give me an action on this and get back to me?
Yeah.
Document why this section isn't called out?
Yeah, I'm gonna look into the scope and I will figure out why it's not exactly called out in the scope itself, but Roll's here with HDR and he did confirm that section is part of the project.
Okay, and then one of the big items that was justification for this was connector down at Timberlock between, and Six Pines, between the south part of the pipeline that is scheduled to be replaced and existing,
Yes,
and that connector is part of the project?
yes.
It's
Okay.
part of the original project, it's carried. Just like we're all,
So maybe what we just need to do is have a better understanding what the original project was. Okay.
I have maps for the previous one as well as this one as well, so I'll verify the scope and get that back to you.
Okay.
Is that in the HDR study?
The town center project,
The original project, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we would identify that how?
I know it's in the project plan, shows the limits in the project plan.
I don't mean the project plan, I mean the 500-page packet.
Right. I know the study's in there. I just don't know if the original, do you remember?
In our report, the new extents are shown. I don't believe we had it in the body of our report. It just has a reference to the old
The original project.
original project, but in our actual report, it's not shown. So that is something that maybe we could add.
So there's no reference of that in HDR study. I didn't hear.
Not a map with the original.
No,
project.
not a map, not the
Map.
old original extents, just the new ones that we designed.
You want to talk a little bit more about the total cost impact? I mean, the numbers are there, but I mean, I guess nobody else has questions for me.
Part do you have questions on?
Well, I mean, so the fiscal 26, 1.47 is what we're planning to spend. That's what we're approving today, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then, but there's an additional 3 million or 2.979 that's needed for the easements, right?
For the balance of the easement, yes.
So we're not funding everything today is the point. We're only funding 1.4 million.
Right.
Total project will come in, well, within the easements is 3.6. Right?
3.6, yeah, as on page 30.
Yeah, okay. Do we have a budgetary estimate for construction?
That's what HCR recommended at this point. But
That
it's
was
also,
15.4.
The 15, okay.
Until we have design plans, that's the best number we have.
But that 3.6 is one that are on our transfers.
no. So right now on page 32, that's all we're asking for monetary wise. Combining those two projects, removing the 1.5 million and essentially adding it to the 1.5 million from town center waterline easements to town center waterline replacement.
What page was that again?
32.
72?
That's
32.
Oh, here.
Yeah, it's important that the body understands that we're approving about $1.5 million to finish the design and progress the purchase of the easements. But we're not approving the money to actually buy the easements. And we certainly aren't approving the 15 million to do the construction. So to drive this to completion, there's more work to be done.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
What we did want to do, and that's the point of the 3 memos, is to let y'all know essentially just that. All your funding is the town center water line easement, or excuse me, redesign. If there are funds for some easements that we can get relatively cheap, we're going to acquire some of those. But once we're out of funds, we do at some point need to come back for construction and easement funds. So that's what all the words mean.
So say that again. So this, you guys have borrowed our money for the 3.6 million?
No,
No, only the number.
1.4.
only for the 1.4, and that's a budget,
Yeah, the budget.
basically a
And
budget
then when do you
transfer.
think you'll come back with the 3.6?
Say that
The
again.
remainder,
When?
when? Next year?
Yeah, it'll be
12, 13 months from now.
I appreciate the transparency. Very good. Good job.
That's also at the same time, or before then, and we stayed on page 31. For construction activities to commence, it's essential for y'all to start talking funding of the actual construction itself. Because if construction and easements is roughly $19-20 million, that can't be R&R funded with current rates. And so we just say you got 10-12 months to let us know how you want to proceed once design is done.
I think we still have questions to digest from the HDR study.
Oh, I entirely agree.
You judging from the phone call. And I don't know when we'll be ready to discuss
Well,
those.
with that in mind, you'll look at that last bullet on the first page of the memo, where it says, if the MUD decide not to move forward with construction, then project goes on the shelf, and it could be $500,000 to $1 million to resurrect that project at some later date.
But we have 12 months to get
Right.
funding.
Yeah.
We can't answer our questions in 12 months.
There's something wrong.
Just want to let you all know.
I might concur with y'all.
Financial advisor. Do we need to consult with our financial advisor on what the options are in terms of if we are going to be using.
They will do Eric and let him.
Eric,
Not for this.
not for this,
Not tonight.
but no, not for tonight, I'm talking about the next 12 months.
For this and then all the other projects that
Yeah.
are sitting there and
Okay.
where they sit on the 10-year project plan. Remember, SJA has requested of the MUDs to give them direction on the rest of the other 6 projects and where those might be, or at least giving them authorization to, follow the HDR report and place them in the 10-year project plan, whatever projects those are, end up being. With those in the 10-year project plan and then the treatment plant, when that information becomes more available and that's placed in the 10-year project plan, then we can start looking at the financials to identify how we're going to fund, not only how we're going to fund it, but what the resultant will be to the customers. And that may guide your final decision on how the funding occurs,
Right.
whether it's tax or water bill or whatever. But for transferring $1.4 million from easements to redesign, we really don't need to tackle that tonight.
Got it.
Other questions?
Good. Yeah. Hearing no further discussion. We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, agenda item 13. Discuss and or act on the water line renewal plan. General Manager Peterson.
I've kept that on the trustee and MUD budgets. If there's any further discussion, to give you an update, there was a call last week with some remaining questions. And there was some additional information that was provided that the group is going through. And I suspect the result of going through the new information will provide me some feedback. And then we can possibly wrap it up.
And you've got the updates to table 5.3 and 4 series and, when the testing was done, we get the updates
I sent that to you that day in the meeting.
that day's meeting. Oh, Ed, I was looking at that. table, and I
Just
make
to be clear, there's no pending information that I'm aware of that I have not gotten to you.
Okay,
I know that was an issue.
I thought that was true.
Okay.
It's table, look through this real quick. So if we go back to table 5.3, I think you provided an update that added the project that was in
That's my recollection.
recollection. Yeah, but I would have appreciated the DL number, the lat long, something we can plot
We
with that.
provided lat long
Yeah,
for
that was provided as well.
Table here.
That was sent out prior to the call.
Oh, fine, okay, so
The
maybe I
week
missed it.
prior.
Yeah, have you seen that, Brett?
No, I
I haven't seen it either.
haven't looked for them. I downloaded, I was
I've been
out
looking
of
for
town
a few
and
days.
Director Thaler was asking for the complete list of lat loans for all of the water lines, and that was provided.
You provided him?
So all
It was
50
provided
to the
directors.
mayor.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think we left that meeting and it was agreed upon that all the directors in that room were gonna funnel questions to Brad, and that's not occurred. Well, I haven't gotten anything, but I have been getting stuff from others, so
Other people.
I don't know what process we're following now, but.
I like Brad's pen work, but, okay, I'll check,
It should be on the Google Drive.
it was in the emails that were sent out. We had 2 different emails. One with original updates and then one with the 2 updates to the tables.
Correct. And then, but Shelley sent out the lat longs about a week prior. And then
Shelley's a popular person. in
All
my
50
people.
direct, well, it's easier for her to send a 50 all and BCC everybody. And it's just.
I'll go back and.
Is there a Google Drive location that has all the HDR files on it?
I'm sorry. No, we have that.
All the HDR files,
Google Drive with all the HDR stuff on.
because it's kind of dripped and drabble out via emails.
Make one.
Sometimes it's just nice to, yeah.
So that one's part of a Google Earth file that I
And
sent.
there's a KMZ file,
Yeah.
and then wasn't there an Excel with all the flat bones?
I should go back to the details.
Eric, just what exactly would the action that is being proposed in this agenda item 13? Is that to put these 7 HDR report projects into the SJRA 10-year project plan?
SGA has requested from the MUDs direction on the HDR projects, in this case, seven projects, one of which you went forward with this year. By number one, so that they could plan them out in the 10-year project plan. So you have recommendations from HDR on how they recommend that. But the MUDs need to direct SGA to officially do that so that they can be put in the 10-year project plan.
So our authorization of this would be to show support at the trustee level, but yet it would go back to the MUDs for their individual discussion? Is that accurate?
I believe so. Direction from the MUDs.
Well, so putting in the project plan is one thing, funding it is another. So I think putting the project plan would be part of the budgeting process through the trustees, but then when you get to the point of actually funding it, if it's going to require a bond issue, then we're back to supplemental agreement with the MUDs to authorize the bond issue.
I think the biggest thing we're looking for is, do you want us to try and do it all in 10 years, 5 years, 20 years, 50 years? And all we're talking about are the 7 projects.
But wouldn't it make sense for us to see a recommendation from combination of the water agency and SJRA? With all the information we now know, and we have, which is a lot more than we had 18 months ago, that you replan based on what you know, based on what you think think you've got learned, that you replan your 10-year budget. If some of these things stick outside of it, then fine. But it just seems to me that we've got to get better at figuring out how to do some long-term planning. The funding is, when we'll get there, we may learn along the way. A couple years down the road, you might see some breaks. You might see some things that cause you to push something out and pace it. You might get something and pull it forward. And right now, it seems like we're kind of micromanaging your work and your work. And I don't think that's what directors are supposed to do. I think we've learned a lot in the last 18 months, but I would look for you to lay out a new roadmap based on what you know. I don't know what if project 7 should go before project 4 or after 6. I mean, I could spend a lot of time trying to figure that out. And I know some of you are doing that, but I think that's what we've hired you and your team for. And that's what we spent the money on engineering, to get that information so we could do that better. And that to me is what I'd like to see. And so we can pull ourselves up a little bit and get to the funding problems that we're going to have and start analyzing the impact on rates when we go down different paths. And if we have some MUDs doing one thing versus another, that to me is, because that's how we're going to authorize and fund the project. And that's really what directors should be doing. Providing resources, providing direction, asking questions, learning. We shouldn't be solving your problems. That's your job. That's what we hired you to do.
We're happy to give you.
That's my request. And if that's, maybe I'm the only one that feels that way, but I just feel like we should get it back to the process and get you guys making recommendations based on what you know.
So obviously some recommendations came forward with the HDR study.
Right. Great number of recommendations came forward. Yes, sir.
We've learned a lot.
What's so struggling is that when you look through all those tables, that appendix 1 and appendix H and, 5.3, 4.2, there's broken links that make it.
So if you can spend a lot of time inside a spreadsheet if you want, or I think we can think of this in the context of having large infrastructure, we're trying to find out how to apply maintenance capital to some things that exist. And there's not going to be a bright line, David, where all of a sudden we say,
Don't expect to be. Right
on this date certain, we need to go replace that. We just want to be ahead of the breaking and the failures, right? Within a reasonable amount of time, so we're not wasting money. And I don't know anyone here can really predict when that's going to be, but we have to get a process that we can actually use information that we have, keep it updated, and then we can set a direction and get the 10-year plan, the 20-year plan laid out there, and have some concept of what's going to happen to our rates along the way.
And like I said,
Right.
some of us have spent a good bit of time looking at the result of
Right.
the HDR study. And it's been difficult. That's why we asked for the additional meetings, to understand. And I'm prepared to sort through these tables and to understand how the projects are laid out. But
will any of your requirements, pardon me, will any of your necessities or changes that you've asked for, will it prevent us from voting on perhaps an amended motion to include the 7 projects in the SJRA 10-year project plan? Because as far as I'm concerned, I'm a simple person. I don't get into the weeds like you guys do. I always refer back to this component of the HDR report, and this is page 51 of 61. And if you'll allow me to, I'm going to read 3 bullet points. Pipes reported as being in poor condition are likely in need of urgent attention. Depending on pipe loading conditions, the pipes are at higher risk of experiencing leaks and catastrophic failures and should be addressed as soon as possible. And 3, in most cases, pipe segments that fall within this category have reached the end of their useful life. Actions such as structural lining, slip lining, and or full replacement should be investigated as an immediate requirement. And as far as I'm concerned, I will make a motion to have these 7 projects put in the SJRA 10-year project plan. If I can get a second, that'd be great. If not,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to just ask a follow-up question to Hugh's proposal and request. How long would it take to incorporate Hugh's request into the 10-year plan in order to present it to this?
We could have it done probably before the next trustee meeting.
Then I'm in favor of the proposal.
So, Bob, let me just give you some feedback, okay?
well, we don't have a second.
Those of us that have come out of industry, have experience approving multi-million-dollar projects, people come all the time asking for money. As a responsible oversight body, we are charged with making sure we're comfortable that the money needs to be spent at the time it's being requested. Okay, that's all we're trying to do. I don't know about you, but I can tell you in my refining chemical plant experience, people were always asking for money. People always wanted to spend money. If you provided money for everything that was asked for, you'd be broke. Okay. HDR has done a reasonable job. They brought some information to us, but some of the information, the high values, the high risk stuff, I don't think anybody takes exception for. There was one project in there where 83% of the lines in the project have never broken. Okay. Are we prepared to spend money to replace significant lines that have never broken? Okay. Those are the type of questions we want to ask. It's not a matter of if the line's broken or has a bad history of breaks and it's in poor condition, it's about to break again, we're going to fund that. But when you look at some of the projects that are in the tier 2 and tier 3, I think there's serious questions on the timing of those projects.
I respect your opinion.
Should there be
I respect your
future
I have
triggers?
a motion and a second.
Okay, so if you want to vote, we can vote today,
Yeah.
and you won't have unanimous support. Okay,
I understand.
so if that's what you want, or if you want to give us more time,
We're just voting for them to
Great deal of
prepare
time so
something for
far,
us to
Brad.
review.
no, we haven't had enough time because the work product has problems.
I disagree.
I mean, what we found out.
You looked at it?
Yes, I was there. I got the same data that you did.
Right, and what we
Yeah.
found out was the project we approved tonight was not justified based upon breaks and quality of the line. Okay? That's not the main driver. Okay? The HDR expert said if you looked at just the quality of line, town center would not be a tier 1 project. And we just approved it as a tier 1 project. Why did we approve it as a tier 1 project? Because the redundancy it adds to the distribution system.
And we said $1 million already designing it.
Yes. Which is fine. So we all approved that.
No one's debating that.
Well, no, you said it's because of the condition of the lines, not because of the condition of the lines. Okay?
Was this guy making this stuff up, in your opinion?
No.
Oh, okay. I'm lost.
So what segments is that?
Uh,
Does it say? what-
No, it doesn't. Not
It
in
doesn't.
general,
Yeah.
but
So-
the ones addressed as in poor condition.
Well, I understand, but there's thousands of yellows. So which ones are there? Which ones are they talking about?
Well, I just did this in order to be brief.
I understand, but that's you start looking at this detail. I mean, here's all the test data, right? Here it is right here. They didn't put the Yale number on it. They didn't tell you what project it was going to. They didn't put the lat long. So we're digging through this stuff and we're finding very difficult to link it to an individual project. Here are the test results.
Well, I
It's
mean,
not
is it,
linked.
is
So
it,
we're
is it,
spending
is
time
it,
doing
your-
this.
is it your job to do
I'm
this?
just asking.
Well,
That's their rate.
I mean, seriously, you've retained the premier firm in the United States of America,
That's
if
right.
not the world, for this type of work.
That's exactly right. But the SGRA, you know what I mean, has problems. And they should be supervising this consultant. And I don't know if they have. You know what I mean? I mean, we got questions where it should have been caught in review by the SGRA. And personally, I think this was premature releasing this document. without review.
Simple question. Another director asked in the very first meeting with HER, you have a 10-year plan. What set the 10-year plan time period? Should we be doing these in 7 years or can we stage them out to 15 years? And the answer was, I can't answer that question. I don't know. Well, I think that's a pretty big deal for us on our budget impact, whether we should be doing these in a 7-year window or a 15-year window.
Or
And there
in
should
this
be
case,
some-
the 10-year window.
or 10-year, but whatever the right window, there should be some basis for it. Okay? And we've not been unable to find that basis. Okay?
Just seems to me
So-
like we're stuck on the side of the road.
There's one project that the only justification is they took 2 samples. And you look at the desktop assessment, it wasn't a high risk area. They took 2 samples. One of the 2 samples came back at a moderate risk or a high, it was above their threshold. So you've got 1 sample. And is that the justification to spend multi-million dollars? I would say that's justification to do more testing and monitor the system.
I
Okay?
mean, I just remind you,
I think-
I met this guy, the HCR, David Smith.
Yeah.
But Dallas. His first comment to me was, David, this is usually a 2-year project. So when I met him again here in town, he said the same thing. You know, it'll be a 2-year project, but SRA wanted to get done in 6 months. So there was a rush here.
No,
Well,
incorrect statement.
I'm just saying,
We let the consultant decide how long the.
I can tell you
length
what
of
he
the
told me
project
that
was.
night when I met him again. And,
So,
we're not asking for, months and months and months. We're asking for, we spent a good bit of time going through this reading this document and trying to sort through. I mean, think about it. If you go back and look at these summary cases, it's a half a page of narrative, half a page of narrative.
so David, how does this play out? How does this play out? You keep going through this
What's it-
analysis and then are you making recommendations on when we should
No,
repair
I'm
these?
just trying to
You
understand.
just keep asking questions until we just, like, go get me another rock. I don't like that one. I mean, I don't know where the end is. I don't even know how it ends.
I'll tell you, Hugh,
I'm just confused.
I didn't begin the dialogue. We came in here with recommendation was we have to replace everything.
We know that. We know how we got here. Okay.
Now we're down. We've had this thing a month.
I'm just asking about what we're gonna do going forward, David. I don't really care.
I'm hoping to sit there and understand these 7 projects. or 6
And
projects.
then what?
And
then
then we look at what we understand and we move forward. But I don't know what move forward means.
Maybe it means that when Mud 46 does not participate
No,
or something. I don't know.
think
I
that
don't
at
know what
all.
this, I don't know how we do this like this. That's all I'm asking.
Another thing that's a
Well-
fact, you talk very properly about spending money foolishly. I believe that since 2020, we've spent $4.6 million on various studies with some of the finest engineering companies in the United States of America. And for whatever reason, that's not enough. We need more studies. We need more time.
Nobody's
We need
asking
more
for
data.
more studies. And let's be real, if we hadn't pushed this study now, we would have been spending 180 million plus to replace 100% of the AC pipeline over the next 10 years. Our worldwide experts said we only need to replace 30% of that over the next 10 years.
And you faked that,
Okay.
didn't you, back then?
So that's savings of more than $100 million we received by doing this
Recall that
study.
ever
of
coming to a
HDR.
vote, did it?
Well, we had to, why don't we look
I
at
don't
the dates?
recall
You
ever,
spoke
I
for it.
don't.
You spoke
did
for
I?
Did you?
I don't recall.
Oh, well.
What's the second?
You seem to have a selective recollection.
And we
on
have
that.
something to look at.
Question. I know you asked the question about what, could we put a project plan together to show all 10? We can, or all 7, excuse me. Would it be better, would it be I'll say less controversial if instead of naming the projects in the plan, we allocate a certain amount of money every 5 years for water line replacement projects? A certain amount could be 10 million, it could be 20 million, whatever is a comfortable number to give you all some planning numbers for the budget conversations. Not worry about identifying project specific at this point. Just say $20 million every 5 years.
Good idea. I think that's a really good idea.
And then we can name the project when it comes time. Now, I'm going to remind you all, takes at least 2
We
years.
can take it or leave it then.
Yeah. Takes at least 2 years to design a project. And some of these are 3 to 4 miles long. It could take 2 to 3 years to construct. So you've got a 5-year lead to be able to even have something replaced. Is that more palatable to the group?
And the only way to accomplish the completion of all 7 would be to start all of them in the first 5 years. So if you were to put one of the projects, let's just say a tier 3 project in year 8, 9, or 10, that's not going to be complete for another 5 years. So there you're at your 15 years at that point, on those tier projects, because it takes 4 to 5 years to complete from design to construction. So the only way to even, when we say fit it in 10 years, I don't see it fitting in 10 years from the standpoint of the entire completion of the project.
Of all 7?
Correct.
Well, the
It would be
recommendation from HDR is to have them all completed.
I understand that, but that
Or-
takes,
I see it as being started maybe in,
That's not the recommendation.
well, understand.
but that would mean something would have to be in construction, another project would have to be in starting design, and another one would have to be finishing design when the project under construction is complete. You'd have to have 3 in cycle all the time.
I think there's a reasonable cadence, because I also think that you need to take the community into consideration as how the cadence is set, how the timing is set. And in order to do it in 10 years, you'd have to start all 5 in the first 5 years.
And that's too much to do.
You couldn't do that. That's not physically possible. You wouldn't want to do that, not just from a construction standpoint, but from a cost standpoint to the community. You're going to want to stretch it out. So I think,
What are you suggesting? You start one every 3rd year?
well, I think that's what we did. To me, and I know that the motion was to ask SGA to figure out where it fits on the 10. I think we could work together to look at identifying where those are. And I don't think it ends up being all 7 go the same first 5 years. I don't think that's feasible from, like I said, from many
I'd
standpoints.
like to see that.
So,
Let's won't see it.
I mean, whether or not that's it wouldn't be every year. Is it every 15 months you start one? I mean, we'd have to look at that and see what makes sense and look at the different sizes of the projects, because you might not want to clump two of the bigger ones back to back. I mean, and I'll also take into consideration the tiers. I mean, I think you start with the tiers. You got to start with the tiers. And I understand the town center's not a one, we get it, but it is designed. So it's nearly shovel ready. So it makes sense. There's reasons, even though.
Well, the redundancy that you get by
Well,
making
that
that
could-
connection is a huge a huge factor.
But all the other ones, I think you start with the tiering, unless I haven't heard any additional major arguments about the tiering. I mean, I know there's segments
I'd
of
like to
certain.
give you an argument. Is operationally, I'm an operations guy. There's an AC water line on Mill Bend, is that right?
Mhm.
Mill Bend, that line is not very deep. And there's very little, I mean, there'd be very little disruption people can get to their house. And if it was me, and from an operational standpoint, I'd just let it go for no matter what the tier is. Operationally, it's not deep. It's easy to get to. Town center, obviously, it makes sense over there. You disrupt a whole lot of people, not only from a traffic standpoint, but, so anyway, that's one thing that hasn't been considered is operationally, some of these projects are easy. They don't disrupt much. And if it was up to me, I'd let the Mill Bend Loop go. And if it starts breaking every 3 years, then maybe we could replace it. But, the cost to fix the AC line on the Mill Bend Loop is not much. I'm talking about a break. I know there's been one break that I'm familiar with, and it didn't take them too long. They probably went out there and put a saddle on it and buttoned it up and. No.
We typically take it from joint to joint.
Okay, but still, if it's a 24-hour job,
Yeah.
you can do it 24 hours, right? And the Mill Bend Loop is not, Woodlands Parkway or
Right.
Lake Woodlands. And so to me, those projects, I don't care what tier it is, operationally, it's easy to get to. And, and that's the one thing that people aren't taking into consideration to me.
We clearly are going to be spending money over the next, we're going to clearly be spending money in the next decade. I think it's foolish to not think we don't have something placed in budgets. I'd like to see how it rolls down into the base rates or the tax, however we do that. And we have to be able to model some of that. You might find that you can consolidate some and speed it up. You might have to break some apart, but that's an ongoing evergreen maintenance plan to me on stuff that's already sitting there. We're not trying to build something new. We don't have a new project that someone's trying to build something brand new. We're trying to just keep what we have running well, right? And I just don't see a path right now the way we're doing this. I'm just trying to break that log jam to try to get a roadmap that we can start working on. And between the two organizations, we should have a pretty good plan of how to do that and how to prioritize things.
I'm happy to work with Esther A to put together a preliminary look at that to bring back to y'all. Certainly taking any feedback from anyone.
So,
I think Ian's suggestion was really good.
so being
Trying to
that there's a
find
motion on the floor here,
Now and then.
are we going to modify that motion or are we just going to eliminate it so that we can move, have it restructured and brought back with some of the information that has been requested here? Because if it is that, I'll happily withdraw my motion.
Sounds like that's probably the route to go, because if what we're looking to do is come up with just benchmarks of tranches of money to set aside, and then you plug in projects as they get drilled down on and figure out which ones to move forward with. As long as you are moving forward on the discussion of how are we going to fund this, starting to have the FA and the River Authority look at, okay, what do we need to do to wholesale rates, assuming we're going to do these tranches of bond issues that will have some project put into them. Then we can move on to the discussion that Hugh's talking about is how are we going to fund this? How are we going to educate the community? And that's going to be the next big lift.
So we may need a little more than 30 days to come back with a full plan when you include FA and impact to rates and such. Just putting projects in a spreadsheet, that's easy to do. It's all the other stuff that requires additional help.
Yeah, and I think us seeing the logic of why you're putting it there in that sequence at that time, I think is going to be valuable for us. We see you reflecting back on the information that we've paid for over the years. That's what I want to see.
This is consistent with what you were talking about, getting done by November.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, this would push it up because
So I'd push it up, but I mean,
Yeah.
so if it
Mhm.
went into October, it's still consistent with your November timeline.
We're getting a financial plan together and then we can always fill in the blanks as to which project goes where. I think there's, visiting with Chris just briefly, I think there's only one project that exceeds like a 20 million. And that's the Woodlands Parkway. So that it's linked in size. Both the others,
I'll withdraw my motion and it'll come back in hopefully October with the needed additions and a bit more clarity than was presented in this agenda item. Okay, so the motion, any further discussion? Very good, thank you.
thank you.
Let's see, receive the attorney's report. Brian?
Yes, sir. Good evening. Attorney's report's a little shorter on the legislative stuff today since some of our members decided to go vacation in California, Illinois, and New York. So since they're on vacation right now, we'll set aside the legislative session stuff. A couple other items to note. One, next month we will be implementing House Bill 1522, which is the bill that requires for 3 business days advance notice of agenda posting. So Eric and I have been visiting about that and the timing for when we'll have to publish notices for this meeting as well as for the MUD meetings. It's going to definitely push back the scheduling. Also, a second component of that bill you may have noticed on the legislative summary is that starting September 1st, there is a requirement that agendas that involve the discussion of the budget include a copy of the proposed budget as well as a tax impact statement. So we're going to be at the tip of the spear on that since our budget is in September. We are working with Jeannie and Maureen as well as other tax assessor collectors and accounting folks in the MUD industry to determine what that tax impact statement is going to look like. There's not a form in the legislation, so that has to be promulgated. There'll probably be some refinement over time, but you'll see that on the agendas for next month. Last thing, as Arthur mentioned, there is the constitutional ballot item that will be on be up for consideration in November. That is related to Senate Bill 7 and House Joint Resolution 7 that created the $1 billion revolving fund that will come from sales tax. So we've talked about that before, but that will be, as Arthur mentioned, that'll be on the ballot in November. That's all I have on the attorney's report. Happy to answer questions if you have them. Okay, thank you.
None, thank you, sir. Receive the general manager's report. General Manager Peterson?
Yes, thank you. The GRP summary, as I committed to give you each month, page 36. Couple highlights from the GRP meeting we did. The committee did approve recommendation to accept a request from Mid-South to request their additional allocation. That then had a budget result, which the committee also approved the 2026 budget, which was pending the results of the effect of adding Mid-South's request. So that was approved as well. And then there was discussion about relocation of some water lines along State Highway 75. We approved the engineering to proceed with that. So those are the 3 major actions, making recommendation to the board, STRA board, to address those 3 issues. In your packet, you will see some of the communications, things that we're working on. You'll hear more about that in your MUD meetings next week. There is a pretty long article on water-related issues, this particular in North Texas. As investors are buying water rights. Thought it was an interesting article on what's going on to our north. Doesn't necessarily affect us maybe directly, but results of this may have indirect relations across the states.
Is it the Silicon wafer plants doing that?
No,
No.
it's a Dallas investor that is basically buying up groundwater rights and wanting to resell them. So everybody figured it out and style. Voicing their
Pickens tried that.
Yeah, he did, didn't he?
I mean, they just about ran him out of town.
Sure did.
I don't think they let him back in West Amarillo, did it?
And last thing I had was just to report that we did send out the CCR reports on water quality for all the MUDs. And there's a little article on what's in your water and how to read your water quality report. That's in there as well. So any other questions?
Let's go back to what Lone Star is doing on the 18th of September. That was in there. I don't know whether we talked about this last month, if anybody's RSVP for that, or you've shared it with your MUDs. But if you're concerned about unlimited pumpage within Montgomery County, this is an opportunity to at least hear what Lone Star plans. And
Yeah.
They say that's gonna be at the Lone Star
Both.
Convention Center. No, it's gonna be at the Convention Center now.
no, it's at their office building.
Their house.
So it's limited space.
Yeah.
So if you want to go, you gotta reserve a
Be
spot.
there early.
So I'll remind the MUDs next week, but September 17th is the GMA 14 meeting. September 18th is the MUD informational meeting. I'll bring that up next week to all the MUDs. I know there's a handful of us that are RSVP to attend.
Well, so I sat in on the call that Lone Star hosted with the Water Development Board about the public feedback on their model. I don't know, did you or you all listen to that at all? But, they're very, very defensive that the model they've got is right. It fails to incorporate the most recent data. And, I don't think their model is going to reflect the decreasing well levels that we've seen since groundwater usage has gone back up. And they basically are fine with that. So the path they're headed down is unlimited pumpage for the next 5 years.
How did they deny that, Brad?
Well, from a timing standpoint, when you look at it's a multi-year process to update the model. They basically say the window for new data is 2018. And 2018, that's
7 years ago.
so that was what went into the 2023 update. And they're doing a minor update to the 2023 model. And
Working with old data, getting
So-
old answers.
yeah, I mean, the Water Development Board is pretty clear. That model's not designed to model individual well levels. It's a area wide.
Or even individual reservoirs. That's the big fallacy.
Yeah. So
In other words, the Jasper, USGS defines the Jasper as a confined reservoir. It has no outcrop to speak of. So what's there is there. And every gallon you take out is a gallon that's never going to be there. It's gone. So they have this region-wide model that includes all these different, reservoir engineer. We call them reservoirs, right, instead of aquifers. But anyway, that model is.
as a county, we are headed towards continued unlimited pumpage.
Well, what's
Yeah.
important is
It's pretty.
the primary source is the Jasper. Anyway.
Anything else for General Manager Peterson? Okay, receive the staff or ad hoc committee report updates. The Personnel Committee did meet on August 11th, and the matters that we discussed were placed in the budget that was approved this evening. The Audit and Finance Committee, Ron?
As earlier explained, we met and went over the budget and recommended approval.
Very good. And the Public Education Committee. You
Yes.
through, Ron?
Oh,
You through?
sorry. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Public Education Committee, Neil?
Yes, we met this afternoon. So upgrades to communication materials are ongoing. We got to see a general level video throughout the Woodlands explaining elements of the water renewal. There have been ongoing interviews with a number of community members, including township directors, there's water staff, there was even a high school student interviewed, a field technician, and also CWG members. So trying to get a sense of what the community is thinking about infrastructure renewal. And those interviews will be incorporated into videos in the future. The other thing I mentioned last time was about an interactive infrastructure map to help people navigate what changes could be coming. That's going to be reviewed by Woodlands Water staff in the next couple of weeks with the goal of having it go live in mid-September. Just a minor statistic. The renewal website is continuing to attract folks with almost 1,500 unique visits in July. Updates to that website will continue. Now, obviously, after item 13, discussion and requests related to that. Last month, I advised that the community working group had planned to meet next month, and part of that plan was to have HDR present a summary view of the waterline condition assessment, and that was subject to the availability of a HDR representative. You know, I can't help but think that this meeting date's going to get pushed back while we're waiting for more information to arrive. So again, as I've always said, we want to keep the tempo going of informing the committee working group, but not getting ahead of our skis. So we will advise further once we get more information from Woodlands Water and SJRA. And what was that? Was that October?
That's what we were told, yeah.
So
It's a minimum, I think, October.
So we'll revisit on whether or not we need to have the CWG meeting. If so, it'll have a different focus.
I don't think it will. I think the focus was always going to be about the condition.
Yeah, but
it wasn't going to be about any placement of projects or anything like that.
So just condition then. We can go ahead with that.
I think so.
Okay, all right. Let's.
Do we need the input though from the gentleman from California?
We'll work out the details.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That's all. The regulatory should be able to present it. I mean, they're the one that, they're the owner receiver of that document.
Perhaps. But the national expert does a pretty good job of presenting it, probably beyond all of us. But the important thing is just to, I mean, as we've taken the CWG through different topics, we've not brought them through any topic that the MUDs haven't already seen, nor have we really brought them through the level of detail that the MUDs have seen.
Right.
And that would be the same protocol here is just getting them kind of up to speed with some of the basics of what has been presented publicly.
So you and Ed, as we discussed in the meeting, will be carrying forward the probability of a 10th of September presentation by HDR, or
we'll work through that.
Okay. Notwithstanding what was discussed in item 13 this evening. Okay, got it.
Yeah, I don't see that changes.
So, thank you.
Brian, do we need to is there any further questions for General Manager Peterson? Or excuse me, for the committees? Do we need to recess? No, we don't. Don't need to reconvene. Discuss matters to bring forward for placement on future agendas to create and bring forth a revised agenda item 13, ask. Okay.
Was
from
does that include Hughes for
SJRA?
Yeah, I think we might make a note of that.
Okay. Very good. Any other items to bring forth for future agendas?
An update on the FSDUs.
That we're still working on it. And we should hopefully have it.
Probably in that line.
Do you want that as a
I mean, we're not ready, we're not ready. So just put it in October.
Okay.
October, fine.
Okay, meeting adjourned. Thank you.